Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Nation Building. On our program, we examine the political, social, and moral issues in the leadership of the Bahamas. We have another exciting program for you today, and we are continuing on this trek of moving away from politicians. And so today, we are going to have a very educational program which will talk directly to you, our citizens, about WTO, a big topic that has been knocked about, for my words, for a long, long time. I believe the Bahamas have been on this road to joining WTO for quite some time, and we have with us someone that has authority to speak to the nation about all matters pertaining to WTO, and we'll introduce him right after this break.
Being awarded a free iPhone in the Making A's Pace campaign last year was one of the most exciting things that ever happened to me. I used my phone to play games, chat with friends over the summer break, and watch YouTube videos. Then I got an idea to start my own balloon business. Being able to use my own phone to start up my balloon business was so important to me. I used my phone to research prices and learn how to do balloon designs that I currently offer to my customers today. The internet speed was so good. Oh my gosh, there was no buffering and the videos were very clear. I am so grateful to Alive for my new phone. Thanks Alive. My name is Cara Knowles, owner of the Balloon Princess, and I believe in best.
It's the market for the entire family. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Bahamian owned and operated, Sawyer's is known for the lowest prices on meats, produce, fresh fruits, and vegetables. Check them out on Facebook and the Freeport News to find out all of their weekly specials and their monthly blowout sales. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Your grocery bill just got lower.
Good morning. Good morning. Hi, would you like to try our chunk noodles?
I only come in here for 2 items.
Okay, but it'll only take 1 second and it's so delicious. Just 1 second.
Yeah, everything tastes delicious. Wow, it's really good. Where do I find it in the store?
Right this way, let me do it. Okay. And shots on. Right.
I'm glad to see you. Do the shuffle. It's been a while, do the shuffle.
I can't do a shuffle, man.
You know what? You need this.
What's that?
Junkanoo Juice Medley.
That's it. Give me some more.
Come on, yeah, that's it. Jamaica Bahama Imports. Always got it.
Come on down and get your Junkanoo juice today.
Who said you can't get great quality products at an affordable price? If you want the best quality food products at the most affordable prices, you must pick up the Jamaica Bahama brand of fine quality products at your favorite food store. Products like Jamaica Bahama Coconut Water, the most healthy and refreshing drink on the market. Jamaica Bahama Fruit Punch, the only fruit punch in the Bahamas made from real fruit. Jamaica Bahama coconut milk, green pigeon peas with coconut milk, condensed milk, kidney beans with coconut milk, corned beef, green pigeon peas, mackerel, and corn. Jamaica Bahama's fine line of products is available at all your favorite food stores and convenience stores nationwide. Telephone 351-8282 in Freeport and 341-4091 in Nassau. I don't wanna win. No, no, I don't wanna win.
Hello and welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and today we have the pleasure of having with us Mr. Zhivago Laing. He has too many titles to mention all of them, but suffice it to say that he served our country as a former minister of government in many ministries, and now He serves as the Executive Director of Government Policy Institute at the University of the Bahamas, and he's also the Chief Negotiator for accession to WTO for our country. Mr. Laing, welcome back.
It's a pleasure.
To
Nice
our
be here.
program, to Nation Building. Today, we are going to have an educational time because I know you are full with all the information that our country, our viewers need to know about a very, my words, very thorny issue of this Bahamas ascension to the World Trade Organization. First of all, though, you, I believe, are playing a significant role at the University of the Bahamas. People, I don't know to what extent, certainly in television land, people know of you in so many other capacities, and so I wanted to give you an opportunity to share with our viewers what you are doing at UB with this long title as Executive Director of Government Policy Institute.
Well, to be sure, and thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. My full-time job, the job for which I get paid, is to be the Executive Director of the Government and Public Policy Institute at the University of the Bahamas. The Government and Public Policy Institute is not a Government of Bahamas entity. It is a full-fledged entity of the University of the Bahamas. Okay? The University of the Bahamas has had this institute for 3 years pretty much, but has not had it come into full bloom as it is now seeking to have done. And so its responsibility is to promote dialogue in public policy matters, to research public policy matters, to train in public policy matters, and to provide consulting services to the private and public sector in public policy matters. So that, for instance, you will see us mount a number of lectures by local experts who might give their thoughts on the government's investment policy, the government's immigration policy, the government's education policy, or you might have government ministers actually come in and give talks on the policy itself. You will see international experts who will come and give their thoughts on policy issues, whether it has to do with governance, it might have to do with democracy, it might have to do with environmental policies, it might have to do with this issue of climate change. So you'll see experts come in to do things like that. We will be mounting soon a program, a forum on which all of the former living governors of the central bank will be in a forum discussing the past, present, and future of monetary and fiscal policy in the Bahamas. That's being mounted by the Government and Public Policy Institute. And so we do things like that. We will be available to government and private sector where the government might make a policy pronouncement. We are able to, at the behest of the private sector, public sector, to give researched input into that policy. So this is a branch of, an entity of the University of the Bahamas. It's an academic entity intended to serve the public policy dialogue, research, and development of the country.
Well said, but I wanted to dig down into that just a little bit for further clarity. For those of us who make the assumption, University of Bahamas, government entity, help the viewers to understand the separation of.
When the College of the Bahamas existed, as the College of the Bahamas, it was essentially an institution of the government of the Bahamas. The University of the Bahamas is an autonomous creature in law. It does not get direction from the government of the Bahamas. It has essentially a Senate, a board of trustees that provide strategic input and direction. The day-to-day ongoing development and functioning of it is done by the president of the university and his cabinet. And that's what it's called. It's called a cabinet. And then it has an academic senate that is responsible for the academic direction of the university. So in every respect, the University of the Bahamas governs its own affairs. So that, for instance, when the university made the determination to hire me as its executive director, it did not have to refer to anybody to do so.
So for those who made the assumption that you were somehow hired by the government,
Absolutely
totally
not.
wrong?
Absolutely not. And I have the benefit I have too of working at the university and in the institute is the university operates under what's called academic freedom. Academic freedom means that we can't be curbed or dictated in terms of our pursuit of researched academic issues and findings. We pronounce them as we find the
So it
research
doesn't matter
supported.
if it hurts the government or
Doesn't
not.
matter at all whether it is complementary or maybe critical of the government. It is what the research, it is what the findings, it is what the analysis supplies.
And for clarity, does the government fund the UB?
Almost all state universities across the world get some funding from the state, and so that happens. But that does not mean that the government is able to dictate to the university, because the university status is established in law. So that for the government to breach the tenets of the university's autonomy, it would have to break the law to do so.
And the people who sit in the Senate and the cabinet of the president of the university, are those appointees any?
The cabinet appointees are the executives of the university, not appointed by the government. The senators are elected by the population of the university who...
You're talking about faculty?
Faculty, yeah. So you even have student representatives in the Senate, and they had to have been elected by their grouping to do so.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
The only people who the government appoints in the university are like the chairman and some members of the board of trustees. And again, the board has a particular responsibility in law and does not extend to other parts of it, which the law also defines.
Unlike colleges of the Bahamas, where successive governments have had to hire the president, I believe, of COB, you're saying...
Well, even in the past, the government itself did not do the hiring. It was the council, the college council
which
that
was
did
appointed at the time by government.
Yeah, right.
So now the difference is that there is no political, if I could say that, appointee that makes up any authority that determines...
Yeah, the strategic direction and control of the university rest in the president and the cabinet, the senate of the academic senate. But the board of trustees does have a say in some levels of strategic direction. But again, their responsibilities are defined in law. Okay, and so every entity knows what in law it has to do. But in every way, the University of the Bahamas is an autonomous entity like a state university anywhere you can find it.
And that is very important for our citizens to know, because when institutions such as yours put information out, it's important to know that it's not feathered in any way.
Absolutely, and as the university professors will not only tell you but show you, they speak their minds, do what they have to do, but they are only guided by the integrity of the academic information that they are issuing. Their analysis, their research has to have the rigor of internationally accepted analysis and research.
On the other hand, what is there to protect students and the country at large from having persons who sit in positions such as yours, or even a professor, from being a rogue advocate of any political movement and so forth?
Well, the only protections any of us have in this kind of environment are integrity and the review of your peers. So you can say whatever you want to say based on your research or findings, but your peers get to weigh into it and they say, well, our findings find something quite contradictory. And so that's how academic institutions work. They work on the basis of peer review. So just because you have a finding doesn't mean that finding will just be generally accepted. It has to go through the rigor of others who have expertise analyzing it and saying no,
Verification.
and it's not just even local expertise, it's international expertise, because you're really not established as even a local expert unless you're published, and the publishing means you get to be subject to critique by others, and then unless you don't get to have the international status unless you're published internationally and people are able to weigh in on your thoughts and findings.
What determines, how do you and your organization, I mean the entity that you lead, determine the issues that you take up? Is that something that the executive director decides, or? No,
I mean, in part, what happens is the Government and Public Policy Institute will have a board of advisors, but the majority of whom will be private sector individuals, some of whom will be retired public servants, to provide strategic direction. So in determining whether a matter should be researched or whether a issue should be pursued, you would put that to your board of advisors, and they may weigh in and say, well, we think that there's a more important issue, or we think that there's not so much an important issue. Sometimes the things you study, the things you dialogue may be things that the public gives input about. So the public might say the university should speak to this issue, the university should look at this issue, or some private entity might say, we'd like you to look at this issue and actually engage the Government and Public Policy Institute to do so. Or the government might say, we'd like to engage the Government and Public Policy Institute to look at this issue for us as an independent, non-partisan arbiter of the issue. So, and you're getting to my point, which is when a government, a private grouping, a corporation, all approach the Institute and say, we'd like these things to be looked at. How then do you determine what is a priority for you to? Well, in that case, it's not a question of priority. It's a question of what your resources can do. So you can put people in a queue. You can say, well, given what we have to do today, we can't get to your issue for 2 months if you want us to do so. Otherwise, you might need to call on somebody else. Is there a cost to absolutely. These would be contracted services. Okay, so even for the government of the Bahamas? For the government of the Bahamas, for the private sector, there'll be contracted services. You are asking for a professional service to be rendered in respect to a certain matter. A part of that might be tapping into local expertise. A part of it might be tapping into international expertise with whom we have relationships. But it's a professional service that's being rendered to the government, private sector, or whoever. And when that cost is determined, those funds are paid to? The Government and Public Policy Institute, the University of the Bahamas. Okay. You're watching Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, having a very, very substantive and informative discussion with Mr. Zhivago Laing. We'll be right back after this break.
Hello, I'm Wendell Jones, and every time I sit down and I watch JCN television, I drink the Jamaica Bahama fruit juice. It's so pleasing to the palate.
I've been cooking Bahamian dishes for generations. I now use Jamaica Bahamas product. The rice is very fluffy, very tasty, and good eating. Jamaica Bahama product is simply the best.
As an insurance agent, my life is go, go, go. But whenever I need a refreshing break, it's Jamaica Bahamas Island Mixed Fruit Drink. Good.
Hi, I'm Debbie Bartlett from GEMS 105.9 FM. The effect that Island Junkanoo Juice Medley has on me is exhilarating.
I've been a customer for the past 2 years, and I will say the quality of the service is very good. During my trip to Andros, I was connected the entire trip. So that was really good. I was able to contact my family members and let them know how the trip was going. We touched land, we're here. So it was very good. And I really appreciate that. And also during times like when we had the storm, it was really good to have that service to reach out to our loved ones to make sure everyone is okay. And I really appreciate Alive for that. And even when there's a little technical difficulty, they always send out a little text message to let us know exactly what's going on. I'm happy to be alive, and I believe in best.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Hi, what you like to try our chunk noodles?
I only come in here for 2 items.
Okay, but it'll only take 1 second and it's so delicious. Just 1 second.
Yeah, everything tastes delicious. Wow, it's really good. Where do I find it in the store?
Right this way, let me show you. Okay. And you start talking about it. Right.
I'm glad to see you. Do the shuffle. It's been a while, do the shuffle.
I can't do a shuffle, man.
You know what? You need this.
What's that?
Junkanoo juice medley.
That's it. Give me some more.
Come on, yeah, that's it. Jamaica Bahama Imports. Always got it. Come on down and get your Junkanoo juice today.
It's the market for the entire family. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Bahamian owned and operated, Sawyer's is known for the lowest prices on meats, produce, fresh fruits, and vegetables. Check them out on Facebook and the Freeport News to find out all of their weekly specials and their monthly blowout sales. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Your grocery bill just got lower.
Welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. I'm here today with Mr. Zhivago Laing, who's the Executive Director of Government Policy Institute at UB, University of the Bahamas. He's also acting as the Chief Negotiator for the Bahamas Ascension to the WTO. Mr. Laing, just before we get into the meat of our conversation to educate our country about WTO, its history, where things have come from then to now, and what we should look forward to moving forward to talk about some of the issues. Let's say a company wanted to approach the Public Policy Institute to look at issues where government policy may be having a negative impact on businesses, for example. Is the Institute able to investigate, well, not investigate, but to research these matters to be able to bring an independent position to say, hey, listen, this policy or procedure that the government has implemented, made law, or it's a policy, is having a significant negative impact, with an aim to cause the private sector who would be seeking that support to cause government to change?
It is. A company is able to do so. A group of companies is able to do so. An industry is able to do so. Because, you know, the university has such a breadth of expertise, both within its local human resources and also within its relationships across the globe. So whether we have to work with our comrades in Harvard or Princeton or University of Maryland or Cambridge or Oxford or wherever they might be found in the world, we are able to engage them in viewing or looking at any matter. So yes, a company is able to do so. A group of citizens may be able to do so even where they say, as a matter of public interest, we would like this issue to be looked at, and so it could be looked at from their point of view, and they may not have to pay for that such a service.
I wish, before we dive in further, to tap into your mind, not only from your current role but former role as Minister of State for Finance, just to look at an issue that is affecting a lot of companies. I've done some research on it myself, just to kind of get an evaluation as to how this is playing out. And there is a problem that exists currently, more recently, since the government had the increase in the rate of VAT, where some items, breadbasket items, have fallen out of the category of being taxable on the VAT, exempt from VAT. what is happening is that whereas all imports that come into the country would be assessed VAT, doesn't matter whether it's a zero rated, whatever the story is, VAT is on everything. A lot of companies were, whether they're falsely, there was a misunderstanding or whatever, but companies were of the assumption, in the food industry and others, well, certainly in the food industry where you have the breadbasket items, that VAT would be waived as it is for consumers at the border for these items that are designated. Unfortunately, what has happened is companies are now forced to pay. So if you have a shipment for corned beef or whatever items that's expensive, comes to 100 grand, you get to the port, value-added tax is assessed on that item. The importer is then unable to pass it on to the consumer directly or to the retailer directly. However, the Ministry of Finance and Value-Added Department, their position is, look, you claim it. And so the question that arises is that seems abnormal for the government to be imposing any kind of levy, tax, or whatever on companies, and they're not able to pass it on, but then the government has these monies held for a 3-month period before then the companies have to claim it back. It seemed a little backways. I don't know. Just wanted your thoughts.
Well, I mean, from an administration point of view, it's not something we do normally in this environment anyways, in terms of collecting people's monies and then having to remit it. There have been over the years such situations in which that has happened, and there's always been a long, drawn-out process for people to get its money back, because unlike so many people think, the government does not have an account full of cash. It operates on overdraft for the most part, and so it depends on what's happening with its cash flow, whether it is able to redeem a set of money or not. And whether you have to pay that VAT at the border, notwithstanding it's tax exempt, depends on how the government has, in law, described the administration of it. To the extent that it's redeemed to you, you're really not paying it. Businesses actually don't pay VAT. The VAT is paid by the customer, and the business just collected. And then where they have had to pay VAT, if they are registered as a VAT registered business, then they get and collect the monies back.
Well, in theory, but the truth is, a company pays VAT at the border. Yes, you redeem it from the. So the challenge really is that is a simple system where you pay at the border, you collect, and the government gets the difference. That's straightforward. The issue now arises where you're paying at the border for something that you cannot pass on, and then you have to
can get back.
But then when? It seems to me.
I accept that. That's why I said the delay in it, in the redemption of it, is a problem, because where the government has a cash flow issue, for the business they're also creating a cash flow issue, because you haven't seeded that cash. Means you don't have it available for your business operation, and you have to wait till the government gives it to you back. 3 months later, you might be dead in the water. 3 months later.
So I raise that, and again, it's something that is broad enough.
To my mind, if the government intended VAT exemption on those items to exist for the purpose of ensuring that the consumer doesn't get any additional costs on that item, the government should have exempted it at the border too. Otherwise, and especially since it's already going to pay it back, from an administrative point of view, it certainly would be easier to just exempt the business at the border from making that payment. But if you could get a 3-month interest-free loan from businesses, the government decides.
But if the government takes that position, whether it's deliberate or not, it is essentially harming especially smaller businesses that can least afford to be able to lay out cash.
Yeah.
And what the last
but that's the issue with custom duties as generally, is that it is extracting cash from businesses up front before they've even made a sale on an item or a service, and that causes them to be in difficult situations, especially small and medium-sized businesses.
Right. Unlike the U.S., for example, who have basically, for the most part, very little tariff, if any, at the border. and then obviously you gotta pay taxes.
Yeah,
but
on the-
but
on the
but
sales.
but it seemed to me, and I'm asking you because of as a financial expert and economist, it seems to me that it encourages businesses and makes it easier for business to flourish in an environment where it's less burden up front in terms of finding cash to generate.
There's no question about that, and it'll come up later on in our discussions, no doubt.
Okay, so let's jump to the issue of WTO. First of all, in our introduction, I said that I don't know of someone who is more knowledgeable and have more experience of this, because you served in the Ingram administration, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, when this whole WTO thing started. Can you tell the country the origins of first of all, what is WTO? What is the purpose of WTO?
Okay. So, following World War II, there was a recognition by countries that one of the things that contributed to the conflict and anxieties in the world between nations at the time was this tendency of nations to engage in trade wars. What's a trade war? I'm going to stop you from exporting to me by putting up high duties on your goods to me, or I'm going to limit the amount of things you can send me, or I'm going to have technical barriers like extensive paperwork. And that not only created conflict between nations, but it also suppressed global trade.
Some would say it's happening again with the Trump administration.
So you had that taking place. And so following upon World War II, what was decided was, you know what, we need an agreement amongst ourselves that could help world trade flourish, make it easier to trade between countries. And so they established what was called a General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, which is called a GATT. So it only regulated trade between countries that were members or signatories to that on goods. Over time, it was recognized that, you know, this GATT needed something to oversee it, because right now it really just us having agreed it, but no one to take a look at it globally and see whether it's working, whether people are complying with it or not. And so they made a determination to set up an organization, the countries, an organization that would be responsible for overseeing these global trade agreements.
And these are developed countries, I imagine?
These were not developed and developing countries, all got in this decision and decided to form the organization called the World Trade Organization, which came into being in January 1995. At the time when it came into being, about 60-something countries joined it, most of the developed countries at the time, and a number of developing countries. As a matter of fact, every CARICOM country except the Bahamas joined in 1995.
Wow.
Okay? So they were all members of the initial founding WTO.
If I might ask, why didn't the Bahamas go
Because unlike all the other countries, the Bahamas had an absolute dependence on custom duties for government revenue. And that reliance, when you join the WTO, one of the things you have to do is reduce your tariffs. And the Bahamas' custom duties at that time was in the 40–50% range, and the dependence for government was substantial. So if it joined, it would have to have found a way to do that. The options would have been things like not value-added tax, but income tax. Well, the Bahamas had a financial services sector that was
critical,
sensitive to issues of tax. And so it decided, I can't join at this time because the issues are too sensitive for us. And so the Bahamas did not join. Over the years, the WTO came to embrace both goods, trade in goods, and trade in services. Bahamians sometimes say, oh, we don't trade anything. This is not true. You trade goods and services. We just happen to trade mostly services. Tourism is a service we trade. We get foreign currency from that. And financial services is a trade. You get foreign currency from that. If you sold a lobster abroad, you get foreign currency. If you sell a hotel room, you get foreign currency. So the impact is the same. And so more and more countries in terms of services came to embrace the need to have trade rules respect to trade and services. So there was the GATT then, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs for goods, and then there became the General Agreement on Trade-related services, services on services. And so the TRIPS agreement, and then more and more people came to talk about intellectual property rights and its impact on trade. So that became an agreement in the WTO. And agriculture, the developing countries said, no, we need to have agriculture subject to this too, so that we can have access to these developed country markets and they don't protect themselves away from our exports. And so that came into the fray. And so the WTO now governs the rules related to trade in goods, trade in services, intellectual property rights, and agriculture. And now there are 164 countries in the world that are members of the WTO. Their collective trade is responsible for 98% of all the trade in the world. 98%. There's 2% of the trade in the world that is not done by WTO members. And
we are part of that 2%.
There are 22 members seeking to join now, so that when they join, it will be 99%. Okay? And so the only country in the Western Hemisphere that's not a member of the WTO is the Commonwealth of the Bahamas.
Wow.
So the organization, again, continues to be just responsible for global trade and goods and services. And one of the things that's a documented, researched fact about it is that it is deemed to be responsible for a substantial expansion in global trade and for keeping custom duties in general down by about 30%.
Question. Why, you explained why in 1995, as a country, that's over 22 years ago, we didn't join. What has the government of the Bahamas done since then, our successive administration, but the government as a whole done, to ready itself for WTO?
Well, first of all, it wasn't a question of readying itself, because it wasn't as if the government of the Bahamas had in its sight, I'm going to join the WTO and therefore I'm going to do things to join the WTO. That's not it at all. Things have changed in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. For instance, the government of the Bahamas is no longer as dependent on custom duties as it used to be. Okay? The average rate of tariffs in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas around 1995 would have been 40+%. It is now about 30%, maybe even 25%, 29%. So it's substantially less. The government of the Bahamas moved substantially out of what we call tariffs strictly into excise taxes, which are WTO compliant arrangements. And then it also has had changes in its financial services sector, where it's no longer a tax sensitive sector. It's no longer, in fact, it's a problem to be running around the world saying we are no tax jurisdiction, which has never been true for the Bahamas, but we certainly low tax. So these things have changed to make what we did have as a challenge no longer a challenge. But the fact that we are so integrated into the global trading community and the prospects for being further integrated by our own trade opportunities. We've got Bahamian businesses going abroad now and setting up business. You got Bahamian businesses looking at shipping more abroad. That means that you're going to be trading with people in an environment where you want to make sure that the rules that apply to everybody, or the benefits that are gained by everybody, can be gained by yourself.
But some have argued over the years that the government's reduction in custom duties and all the rest of it was in fact preparation for WTO. Is that not true?
But that's not true at all. I mean, the WTO, remember, the WTO came into being, the GATT came into being in the 40s. The WTO in 1995. And the government of the Bahamas has been reducing custom duties as a matter of course for a number of reasons. One, because it provided savings for Bahamian consumers to do so. It simply did that. It also did so because it realized that strategically speaking, reducing that level of tariff also provided some relief to businesses who were expending considerable capital at the border to be able to run their business before they even sold a nickel item.
Which was helpful to big business.
It's helpful to every business.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah. The previous policy was helpful to big business, because if you have a lot of cash,
you could. So that's right. The rich businesses.
Yeah, you hinder small entrepreneurs.
And so it has been moving in this direction as a matter of public policy, not as a matter of WTO consideration. But the government of the Bahamas also took a decision in 1993, 4, 5 or so, and said, you know, we need to look at alternative forms of taxation for the government of the Bahamas because the base that we have is too narrow. And it asked the IMF, the Inter-American Development Bank, to look at options for itself, including value-added tax and a general sales tax, but do not consider income tax at the time. That's where the value-added tax study began.
That was what year?
In 1995.
Okay.
Or before. And that study has been going on since then. Okay? And so what has happened now, though, is in 2000, the government said, you know, we are moving in a direction where we're becoming less dependent on custom duties. We're moving in a direction where, strategically speaking, we're doing more trade with the world, and more of our citizens and businesses may want to trade with the world. The World Trade Organization membership has such a dominance on world trade. We're seeing movements in the international community where countries could be making moves that could be adverse to our trade. We should now be looking at joining the World Trade Organization. So in 2000, the government decided to become an observer of the WTO. An observer.
What changed?
Well,
when you became an observer?
What happened? No, with the observer status, you are able to go to the meetings, you are able to attend sessions and look at how it operates, to talk to people who are in there and to get a general sense of the way the organization functions. But you can't vote on anything, you can't have a say on anything, but you can observe. And so following upon that year, the government said, okay, we believe we are ready now to seek membership in the World Trade Organization. So in 2001, it made application to become a member of the WTO. I was, in fact, the Minister of Economic Development when that application was made.
You're watching Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and we'll be right back with you after this break.
Concierge service is the best thing ever. Like, it is so fabulous, especially for someone like me where I cannot leave my office, my job, to go do anything in the middle of the day because I'm on the radio. The service was so fabulous. The ladies gave me a call, they set up an appointment, they come with their professional looking attire, they're just so cute, and they come here, and it was a great experience. It took 20 minutes to switch over to the Alive service. It was simple, it was easy, and they just made me feel so welcomed. They explained everything. They hooked me up with my new phone, they gave me my data package, as you can see, hey. And it was fabulous. It was a wonderful service, but what I really liked best about it was not only did they come here and make it easy for me, but they continued to check up on me. The next day, they made sure that everything was working properly with the phone. I didn't have any issues. The following week, they contacted me again, and I've built a relationship with them. They've continued to check up on me. I feel like I'm part of the Alive family. It's amazing.
Who said you can't get great quality products at an affordable price? If you want the best quality food products at the most affordable prices, you must pick up the Jamaica Bahama brand of fine quality products at your favorite food store. Products like Jamaica Bahama Coconut Water, the most healthy and refreshing drink on the market. Jamaica Bahama Fruit Punch, the only fruit punch in the Bahamas made from real fruit. Jamaica Bahama Coconut Milk, green pigeon peas with coconut milk, condensed milk, kidney beans with coconut milk, corned beef, green pigeon peas, mackerel, and corn. Jamaica Bahama's fine line of products is available at all your favorite food stores and convenience stores nationwide. Telephone 351-8282 in Freeport and 341-4091 in Nassau.
I don't wanna win. No, I don't wanna win.
Hi, good morning. Good morning. Hi, would you like to try our chunk meat?
I only come in here for 2 items.
Okay, but it'll only take 1 second and it's so delicious. Just 1 second.
Yeah, everything tastes delicious. Wow, it's really good. Where do I find it in the store?
Right this way, let me show you.
Okay.
Thanks. Right.
I'm glad to see you. Do the shuffle.
Shuffle?
Been a while, do the shuffle.
I can't do shuffle, man.
You know what? You need this.
What's that?
Junkanoo Juice Medley.
That's it. Give me some more.
Come on, yeah, that's it. Jamaica Bahama Imports. Always got it. Come on down and get your jungle juice today.
It's the market for the entire family. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Bahamian owned and operated, Sawyer's is known for the lowest prices on meats, produce, fresh fruits, and vegetables. Check them out on Facebook and the Freeport News to find out all of their weekly specials and their monthly blowout sales. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Your grocery bill just got lower.
Welcome back to Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock, and we're here today having a conversation on WTO with Mr. Zhivago Laing, who is the government's lead negotiator on the Bahamas' ascension to World Trade Organization. Mr. Laing, when we were in the last segment, you shared extensively about the process leading up to the Bahamas deciding to join WTO. You were, at that point, Minister of Economic Development when I believe the initial request was made. That's been a long time, it's been many years. What has successive governments done since 2001, since that administration that you were minister in, to bring the country in line to joining?
I can't speak for all the administrations. I know that there was any number of things done in the background toward providing documentation to the World Trade Organization as is required in this process. But in terms of public education, I think that has been limited, and in terms of people understanding what the WTO is and what the trade process is. I can't say that in terms of a public education, much has been done.
As I mentioned before, it's been a while, and of course, you know the mood of the country. I don't know if it has changed significantly from where it was when you initially made that request, submission, to where it is now. And so it begs the question, what really is it that you believe the Bahamian people struggle with? Some even say it's a phobia we have about joining these international bodies such as WTO.
Well, first of all, let me say, I think people have changed compared to where we started out. In 2001, I was pushing up a mountain in terms of people's knowledge of, or people's fear of the WTO as an example, or free trade as an example. That's not true today. Lots more people have lots more information, and I think even in a Chamber of Commerce meeting, a vote taken by the group in that meeting after panel discussion on the WTO was a 50-50 split. I would never have expected that 17 years ago. So people are more informed. They are less afraid than before, but there's still a lot of work to be done. But what I hear people's anxieties about include issues like free movement of labor, which is not even remotely an element of the WTO. There are people who have concerns about sovereignty and whether or not we will lose our sovereignty, and to which I always say, well, you're joining voluntarily and you can leave voluntarily, and there's nothing anybody can do about it. If somebody was so strong that they could force you to do it, they certainly shouldn't have taken 17 years to force you to do it. And so that's really not an issue. People also express concerns about the competition, the possible competition that local manufacturers and businesses might face if we open the market.
And you're talking about protected those companies,
the protected
businesses
area.
that are
But
protected areas?
Well, the reality is some people have a view that it's not just the protected areas because they don't remember that the Bahamas, many areas in the Bahamian economy are already free to foreign participation. As an example, we don't have restrictions on foreign participation in manufacturing today, but sometimes even you will find people concerned about that. To that I tell people, well, we are negotiating, so you don't know what the outcome is, and nobody can make us have an outcome. We're negotiating. You are negotiating toward terms that are agreeable to you. If you can't come to agreeable terms, you say, listen, thank you very much, I'm gone. And you can do that. So that's been among the concerns too. And then you've had people who express concerns that, well, we should do a bilateral with the United States of America instead of going with all these multiple countries in terms of a World Trade Organization. And to that I tell them, listen, in the negotiating process, you have multilateral negotiations, you have plurilateral negotiations, and you have bilateral negotiations. So I am having bilateral negotiations with the United States of America and others right now. Secondly, imagine being in a situation where only you and the United States are negotiating. That means that there's only you that the United States has to reference. If they say lower this, open that, what
You're
do you?
forced to. You have no.
But if you are in a situation where it's you, the United States, and Haiti, you have to say, well, how come you didn't do that to Haiti? How come you didn't do that to Seychelles? How come you didn't do that to Vanuatu? Because the rules have to apply to all equally.
And that's easily understood, or better understood, with a president like Donald Trump, who have gone out of world agreements, just decided abruptly that he would pull out. And so I hear what you're saying in essence is the country's fare over the years, a lot of it, I guess, is unfounded in the sense that the reality of it is that you can't be stuck in any agreement.
I cannot bring people to as full an understanding of something that someone who's vested a lot of time has come to understand it. But I could assure you that the more information that people get and are willing to get, the less fearful they will be. But you know, there is a saying, there's none so blind as he who refuses to see. So you can't make people see what they don't want to see. And so there's always that.
And one other thing is, my observation, oftentimes I believe the country, as Bahamians, we forget that people in leadership, whichever side of the whichever political party is in office, that people like yourselves who had the opportunity to serve are Bahamians like us, fighting for the protection of our country as best you can, I imagine. And so I think quite often that is lost.
Sure.
You get the impression that those who are in office, whichever party it is, at that time, that they're aliens working against the people, when in fact we have elected people like yourselves in the past to represent us.
And I can understand that sometimes, because sometimes in office, political leadership, you act like aliens because you don't spend enough time sharing with the public what you're doing. You don't inquire of the public enough times, and so I can understand that.
And as we close, I have to ask this. Rumor has it that your appointment by the current administration, the Minnis administration, is a soft entry back into political life in the country. Is that true?
Absolutely untrue. And I've said this before, and I will say it again. I am not, will not be running, interested in running in the next election. Will not be, have no thought of it. And so I don't know why people are doing that, but hey.
Well, maybe they're looking at some of your skills and making that assumption. And one other rumor is that you are handsomely paid for this new lofty post that you have.
I collect no money for doing this job, none whatsoever. There was a stipend attached to it, and I asked that it be sent to the University of the Bahamas. It does not come to me. I get no money from it.
So you're saying you're doing this for love of country?
All this headache and all this frustration for love of country, yeah.
Thank you so much,
Anytime.
Mr. Laing, for appearing on our program.
Anytime.
You've been watching Nation Building. I'm your host, Winston Pinnock. Stay tuned for the next edition of Nation Building, and as always, have a great week.
like to try our chunk noodles?
I only come in here for 2 items.
Okay, but it'll only take 1 second and it's so delicious. Just 1 second.
Yeah, everything tastes delicious. Wow, it's really good. Where do I find it in the store?
Right this way, let me show you. Okay. And stop talking about it. Right.
I'm glad to see you. Do the shuffle. It's been a while, do the shuffle.
I can't do shuffle, man.
You know what? You need this.
What's that?
Junkanoo Juice Medley.
That's it. Give me some more.
Come on, that's it. Jamaica Bahama Imports. Always got it.
Come on down and get your Junkanoo juice today.
It's the market for the entire family. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Bahamian owned and operated, Sawyer's is known for the lowest prices on meats, produce, fresh fruits, and vegetables. Check them out on Facebook and the Freeport News to find out all of their weekly specials and their monthly blowout sales. Sawyer's Fresh Market. Your grocery bill just got lower.
In the past, I've had a lot of issues with service, data service, drop calls. I was encouraged by a very close friend of mine to make the switch, and in doing so, my service has been impeccable. The data is very fast, it doesn't spool, it doesn't take long to load, so everything works beautifully. I like to know what my bills are, and it's important that I'm able to simply just pick up my phone and know what my bill is. The front line for the Valley Boys is comprised of about 200 members. It's very important because to be a successful leader, I need to be able to efficiently and consistently communicate with them. It works that way. It's beautiful. The data that you guys provide is flawless. I'm John Williams, Chairman of the Frontline Dancers Association of the Valley Boys, and I believe in best.
Said you can't get great quality products at an affordable price. If you want the best quality food products at the most affordable prices, you must pick up the Jamaica Bahama brand of fine quality products at your favorite food store. Products like Jamaica Bahama Coconut Water, the most healthy and refreshing drink on the market. Jamaica Bahama Fruit Punch, the only fruit punch in the Bahamas made from real fruit. Jamaica Bahama Coconut Milk, green pigeon peas with coconut milk, condensed milk, kidney beans with coconut milk, corned beef, green pigeon peas, mackerel, and corn. Jamaica Bahama's fine line of products is available at all your favorite food stores and convenience stores nationwide. Telephone 351-8282 in Freeport and 341-4091 in Nassau.
I don't wanna wait. No, no, I don't wanna wait.
Hello.
Did you get it?
Yes, baby. I got it.
Don't come home without it.
These arms of mine, they are yearning for wanting you.
Where is it?
Strongback is distributed by Jamaica Bahamas Import and is available at your favorite food or convenience store nationwide. For more information, call 341-4091 in Nassau and 351-8282 in Freeport.
My name is Regilio Bethel. My position on board Equinox is mate, relief captain. I must say that during our travels and journeys throughout the Exuma Keys, we've had a few dark or dead spots. Basically, there was no service. They were just dark spots. We would basically be dead ship out in the cold without any communication. And it's been like that for years, and we've gotten used to it. But Life has now provided us with a service which we can stay communicated during our entire voyages. And I've been waiting for Life to bring their service up to more coverage throughout the Bahamas, which they've done in an amazing amount of time. So yeah, I would encourage them all to get that service. It's an awesome service, no interruptions, and it's awesome.